My guest on this episode of Inside the SCCA is the manager of the program that, for many, is their first introduction to the Sports Car Club of America. Justin Barbary has been a coach at track night events. He's a coach for time trials, a multi-time trophy winner at the Tire Rack Solo Nationals. He scored a top 5 road racing finish at the Runoffs. And away from the track, he has gotten his leadership and organizational skills from being a 911 dispatcher in North Carolina. Justin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So you were the guy on the other side of the microphone when I was an EMT.
It could possibly have happened.
No one is better at getting things organized and done than dispatchers. I get that completely. So
we like most public safety officials find ways to work under pressure that just seem easy sometimes.
And there's no pressure when you're running race events, right?
No.
Anyway.
Motorsports events never present any pressure or issues at all.
Not at all. Not at all. So welcome. Thanks for being here. And now I saw a little bio that I stole all that info from a year ago when you were named the interim head of track night. Are you still the interim or are you now the guy?
Well, I think we can probably say that I am the guy. I don't think the title has quite been updated on the SCCA page. I might have to get on somebody about that.
That may have been an older... It was a press release from when you were first named interim, and I didn't take the time to go look any deeper. So, yeah, that's how this club works, by the way, is a lot of times the interim is just hangs out there forever, and you're just the person doing the job. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. So tell me how because all of us have a story, and anybody who's listened to more than like one of the podcasts knows that I like to start with the story. So what's your story? How did you get involved with motorsports?
Well, as all things, there's a lot of details that we probably don't have time for. I think the best place to start is that in the late 90s, as I was doing my best to flunk out of college, I started working for a motorcycle dealership.
Oh.
And kind of got into that motorcycle world and then doing track days with motorcycles and that sort of stuff. And did that for a couple of years and then realized that at the pace that I was going, I wasn't going to survive in good shape for very long in that environment. So in the early 2000s, I started playing around with cars and the rest is history. I like to tell people that I haven't fallen off my car yet, which is a really good sign, which was not the case when I was with motorcycles. So my body thanks me for the transition.
Yeah, I bet. It's like when people ask me, I'm from Wisconsin, why I moved to California, I tell them because I don't have to shovel sunshine. So everybody has their reasons for doing what they're doing. So what was your first car that you played with?
So the first ever new car that I bought that actually ended up becoming a car that I autocrossed was when the Mazda Protege 5s first came out. I thought they looked really cool, but I liked the 4 doors and hatchback style, so it was kind of still utilitarian. I could put a hitch on it and pull motorcycle trailer around if I needed to. Found a local friend who was doing some autocrossing in a turbo Miata and was actually one of in the leadership role for one of the local independent autocross clubs. And he said, "Why don't you bring that thing out and see if you can take it around this autocross course once." And after the first run, I knew that was what I was going to do for the foreseeable future. So it took 60 seconds behind that wheel at an autocross course, and I was hooked.
And that's the story for most club members, many club members my age, because back in the day, we didn't have track night in America. And the easiest, least expensive way to, kind of play with cars, and I actually think it still is, because last I checked, the price to get into a track night's usually 150, 160. What is the cost?
I think we average around 160, 165.
Yeah. And most solo events, your local events, you can get into for under $100, and sometimes easily, it's a lot under $100 depending on whether you're a member and all that kind of stuff. So I really do think the getting involved in solo is less expensive than getting involved in track days. Now, if you want to be competitive in solo, because we actually time ourselves and there's trophies at the end, you can spend a buttload of money racing solo.
You can be as competitive as you want to be, or you can have as much fun as you want to have.
Yep.
You just pick your road and do what you can afford to do.
For some people, one is expensive, and for some people, the other is not. So,
yep.
So from there, you ended up, I see you've got a couple of solo nationals and that you've done really well in, and then you've also gone to the Runoffs. What did you race at the Runoffs?
We ran in B-Spec in 2019 at Virginia International Raceway, which is basically my home track. I live kind of in the middle of several tracks, but that's the one that I visit the most. So, and had a really great time at the Runoffs. Cool. So that was a fun year.
Cool. Yeah, I lived in Charlottesville for a while, so VIR and Summit Point were my 2 points to go to when I was living there, and got to both of those tracks a lot when I was there for the time I was there. So VIR is great, and I was there for the first event when they reopened it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
And I wasn't competing. I don't know if I was there as a journalist or I was there as a flagger. Or maybe I was there as both, probably. That would be a better idea. But anyway, so I was there for the reopening of VIR. And I didn't know really any of the history because I'm not old enough to remember VIR before it closed down. But I'm real happy it came back. So it was pretty awesome to be there for that. But so now you have gotten yourself messed up with the national. I mean, now you're part of the national office. And and so how did that whole thing come about?
Some of it through Autocross connections. I've been doing the solo national tours and solo nationals for probably about a decade, or close to a decade at the time, and had become, very good acquaintances with John Krolowitz and Hayward Wagner and, several people that were very much at the ground level of creating the track night program.
Sure.
Several years ago, and just got a call one day from John Krolowitz and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming down to Atlanta Motorsports Park and helping me coach an event?" And kind of the rest is history at that point. Luckily, he mentioned being a 911 dispatcher, the schedule that I worked left me with some availability during the middle of the week, and track night events are typically on weekdays. So it was pretty easy for me to find the time off to go down there and see what all this was about.
Nice. So a couple of things I want to accomplish here, and because we go through all the programs, and I think there's two discussions to be had here about track night. One is if you're a newbie wanting to go to a track night, what do you do? How do you make it happen? And we'll talk about that. But there's also the idea of for club members who've been longtime members to understand a little bit about what happens, the concept behind it. And kind of there's a couple of myths out there that are probably worth going into, and you can either debunk them or tell me they're right or not. But and Hayward and I have talked about this a little bit as well on an earlier podcast, but we'll dig it into a little bit more. So let's do the first part about kind of like what the track night is and why we do it. So let's just start right from the beginning for those who might have never attended an event. What's a track night in America?
Well, I think the easiest way to explain it is we are a afternoon into evening, sort of half day, come to the track, enjoy your car on a track program. Very low stress. We try to make it as easy and accessible and affordable as possible. Anybody with a driver's license, a car that can pass some basic safety stuff, and a helmet can come out and drive their car on a track.
Right.
That's really the core of it is that we operate at a very condensed amount of time, which is excellent for people who have other priorities during the day and, maybe can't commit to a full day or even, with some of the other programs, a full weekend is what they would have to commit to to do something like this. We offer it up in a nice, tidy little package. They can come out, dip their toes in the water, so to speak, see if they enjoy it. If they do, we hope to get them back for multiple events and possibly move them on, into other programs that the SCCA offers for driving on track. So
for those who've been around the car performance driving world for a while, I kind of tell people it's like an HPDE light. It's not a full day or a full weekend. There's there's a lot of it's a friendly event. I went to one a year or two ago. I helped out at one at Auto Club Speedway, And I just was very impressed with how laid back everything was. Registration was literally, it felt a lot like an autocross. It was a table in the parking lot. There were maybe 100 cars that showed up, and it was on a Saturday because we do things weird out on the West Coast. We're the West Coast. We don't do anything normal. But and it was very laid back, lots of different demographics of people who were showing up, which I found to be awesome because our club is primarily white in many cases, and we had people of all different demographics show up, which was fantastic, and I thought that was great. Everyone felt welcome. There were some really awesome cars there, and there were a couple of bone stock Honda Civics and one guy showed up with a Volvo station wagon, and he was the coolest guy to watch on the racetrack. And so it was very kind of laid back and cool about it. And one of the questions I get a lot from club members, longtime club members, is why? Why do we need track night in America? I want to get your take on it and see what your thoughts are. Why do we need this?
I think the way to approach that is, for most of the SCCA, and I was very much in this world, being hyper competitive in autocross and doing some road racing, going to the runoffs, is that there almost needs to be an extra C in the acronym. It's the Sports Car Competition Club of America. And that's how a lot of people have found the club and how a lot of people experience the club. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed every moment that, I'm competing wheel to wheel or, on the clock at an event. But there's this other population of car enthusiasts out there who, they're not in that competition environment. They just like to, for lack of wearing the term out, having fun with their cars.
Right.
And I think that's really what Track Night tapped into, is that there are car enthusiasts out there that were not finding a home in SCCA. And we've been able to bring them into our family and give them a place to just play with their car.
Right. I mean, even a solo event can be intimidating if you're not going with someone who is a solo person, if you don't have a mentor to kind of hang out with, or and there's none of that at a Track Night of America. There's nothing intimidating about a Track Night in America event. And I love that. The other thing I hear people say to me often is, well, why aren't we getting these Track Night in America people to come work our road racing events? Why are we not converting Track Night people into larger, not larger, but, getting them into other parts of the club? Because it does seem to me like that doesn't happen very often. And maybe you know better than I do. Maybe there's better statistics that I just don't know about. But I only have heard of a handful of people who have been to a Track Night event who have then showed up at a racetrack saying, I want to be, a corner worker or anything at all. Or even people who've come to race who said, oh, we started with Track Night in America. Do you have any idea what that kind of conversion rate is?
Yeah. So two-part question there. I think when it comes to pulling volunteers for other track events out of the Track Night participation, it does happen from time to time. I have asked specifically at track nights that I've been working at that were kind of butted up against a road race weekend, hey, would anybody like to hang out at the track for the rest of the weekend and help us, flag or do whatever? And we've gotten some takers for that. Mm-hmm. But I do think it stems back to just the environment of, people that come to track night. For the majority of them, this is how they experience the motorsports world. It's just them in their car on the track, and they don't expand out any farther than that. The other question about, how we can maybe pivot and do something more with that has really been one of our main focuses for this season. After I took over, was getting the regions more involved, from a regional leadership level, and their volunteers to come out and be involved in the track night events that are local to their areas. Because, really what we're trying to do, if we're asking for people to come from track night participant into a volunteer role for other events that the SCCA puts on, those are regional events. And it really helps to put names to faces, to have that connection with the people that are in the region and running those events, and creating that relationship right there. So that's one of the things we're really working on, and don't have the data yet. We're hoping to see, some fruit from that, but we're working on it.
Thank you for blasting the door wide open for the rant you're about to hear. And I'm not going to rant at you. I'm going to rant at all of the people who've asked me the question, why aren't the track night people coming to help us out at the racetrack? My response is always, has the region ever gone to a track night? Have region members ever gone to a track night either to participate or just to walk around and talk to the people there and say, hey, if you're having fun here, we do this thing called solo and we do this thing called road racing. And if you'd like to be involved, you can do that and shake hands and put exactly what you're saying. And the answer is almost always no. The regions, I get the impression, are often in a position where that's a national thing. They come and do their thing, and they've got their way of doing their thing, and we don't go to it. And I'm like, why not? Or if nothing else, give the track night people 100 flyers to give to the people as they come in with information on how to find your website and who to call if they want to get involved. And when I went to the local track night, that wasn't there for my region. And I'm not just pointing on my region. I'm going to guess that's the case for a lot of regions, right?
It's yes, I would agree with that. We do a little bit in our drivers' meetings to try and talk about the local region. And, hopefully we've got somebody that is there as a representative for the local region. That, that happens sometimes. And there are places where the region leadership is actually, helping us put on as part of our staff the local track night events. So there's some of that going on, but we can always use more of it. Like you said, just walking around paddock, talking to people. People want you to be interested in what they're doing, not just directly pushing them to something that you're interested in. Right. So I would recommend that if regions do want to come out and participate, just come out and treat it like it's cars and coffee. Treat it as just I'm coming out to hang out in paddock and talk about cool cars or cool things that I see. That's how you get the track night participants interested in maybe doing other things. You have to be invested in what they're doing, and hopefully they will find some investment in what you're doing later on.
And I get it. As a volunteer myself, our volunteer numbers are dwindling, which means we're all doing more than we ever did, and we have limited time as well. So spending another night at the racetrack for this type of thing might not be highest on your list of priorities of things to do. So I understand, regions are really strapped for volunteers. It's even more so now that 20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Yeah, so, and I would always, ask, exactly what you said. We can't, expect to have people have the availability for time. The track night is on the perfect night for them to get away from their family or their work or whatever and come out and spend time with us. But if you can get me a copy of your schedule coming up or what you need, or just get some information to us, we can do a little bit of the legwork for you when we're talking in our drivers meetings and that sort of stuff. We're here to help the regions in any way we can. The regions are the lifeblood of the SCCA, and we're not here to pull participants away from them. We're here to try and funnel more participation to them. So anything that they can do to help us get that information to the right people and send them to the right places is beneficial.
Yeah. And I always tell, drivers who've got crew members, reward your crew members and buy them a track night. Give them there's ways to do that. And what a great way to say thank you to the guys and gals who come out and help you on Saturdays and Sundays. Say, hey, take your car and go have some fun. And they're going to tell other people what they do on other weekends. It's a big circular thing. Yep. So, all right, I think we've gotten all of the track night myths out of the way. Let's do this. Let's head to break real quick. When we come back, I want to switch gears and talk about, I'm going to play newbie. I've never been to a track night. I don't know what's going on. And you're going to walk me through the process of getting my car on the racetrack, all right? Let's do that. When we come back, you are listening to Inside the SCCA on the Racing Wire Podcast Network.
I'm Dorsey Schrader, and when I'm on my way to a race, I'll listen to the SCCA podcast, Inside the Short Bus.
Would you like to hear Inside the SCCA live from the Runoffs? We're planning to do 9 shows from the Runoffs, and 8 of them will be live. We'll start each race day with breakfast from the Runoffs. During lunch, we'll do our version of a halftime show, and then we'll end the day with Runoffs After Dark. If you have a racing-related business, this is a great opportunity to reach your customers or congratulate them on getting to the big show. Maybe wish them luck. And drivers, here's your chance to thank your sponsors. Rates are reasonable, For more info, send an email to Racing Wire Network, that's all one word, @gmail.com. If you lock in your ads by July 1st, there's a 10% discount, and we'll have that email address again in the show notes.
Welcome back to Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Belansky. Joining me on this episode is Justin Barbary. He is the guy who runs Track Night in America for SCCA, and we're talking today a little bit about what track nights are and what happens and how to do them. Justin, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you.
So let's get to the nuts and bolts of doing a track night. First of all, where are track nights typically done?
So we use about 34 different tracks across the country. We've got them in all four corners in the central part of the nation. So there's going to be one near you just about anywhere you live. We run at some fairly big name tracks like Lime Rock and Daytona, VIR. But we also hit some gems of club tracks like Carolina Motorsports Park, Nelson Ledges, Gingerman, and also some IndyCar tracks like Portland International and NOLA.
Nice.
So we got options.
Nice. So if I am listening and I want to find an event to go to, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best place to start is obviously the website. That's where you're going to find all the information that you need to get started. It's tracknightinamerica.com. Nothing fancy. Mm-hmm. And I have to give a huge shout out to the people that set up our website and did this job before I arrived on the scene. They have made it extremely easy to figure out everything you need to know about how to get involved. If you're on the website, there is a button right at the top that says Start Here. Yep. And right underneath that, it says what to expect, what to bring, need to know. It's kind of laid out there on a nice silver platter. We don't get a whole lot of questions, because we've got all the information, pretty nice and wrapped up with a bow on it right there.
Right.
But, we also have a customer service, jack@tracknightinamerica.com is the email address. You can email him with any questions, and we try to make it as easy as possible. We're here to help.
So, we bring most people bring their personal cars. I don't think you allow competition cars, right?
We do have a waiver system.
Okay.
We don't have a problem with people bringing out a fully SCCA jargon GCR legal race car.
Okay.
What we prefer though is that car is being driven by, as you said earlier, a crew member,
right,
or a family member, a novice driver, that sort of stuff. We try to avoid having fully competition race car drivers in their race cars, on track with, what is majority a street car event. And
I'll be honest with anyone who would think about doing that, who is a licensed, you're going to be bored to tears. It's not the event for you. So, I mean, in that regard, right?
It's a different environment.
Yeah.
So it's a different environment. Yep.
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not, it's just the way it is. It's built for people who are just putting their big toe in the water. So are there any cars out there that I can't bring?
So we do have some rules about convertibles.
Okay.
Typically, most of the convertibles built after 2006 are okay because they have some sort of factory rollover protection. Anything built before 2006 as a convertible, we would need an approved roll bar in. And there's some verbiage on the website about what is an approved roll bar and what needs to happen there. And then other things like it needs to be wider than it is tall.
Right.
It's pretty obvious. Very, very similar to what Solo and Time Trials specs is what we have as well. So if you're familiar with or have a car that you've used in other programs like Solo, it's probably going to be perfectly fine for track night.
So most sedans, most coupes, most hatchbacks should be fine. Yep. If you want to bring the station wagon or the SUV, that's going to have, you have to pull out a tape measure and do a little bit of checking on that.
Yeah, exactly. And as the vehicles get a little bit more weird, I always like to talk to our participants that may be thinking of bringing something like a bigger station wagon or maybe even a lowered pickup truck or SUV or something like that. It may pass the rollover specs, but then you have to start thinking about, is that vehicle, are the brakes really good enough to hold up for, an hour's worth of track time? So there are some things to consider when you're talking about bringing a street vehicle out to a racetrack. But for the most part, if the vehicle's safe and, you've got a helmet and a driver's license, we're ready to rock.
All right. So let's say I got a hatchback. It's got 100,000 miles on it. I'm coming to a track night. Should I do anything before I get there?
Absolutely. Obviously want to check the vehicle over for any major mechanical issues. Like I said, we do, specifically talk about brakes. There are some tracks where brakes are very hard on brakes, and you're going to have an issue if you don't at least flush the fluid and make sure you've got good pads and rotors on it. But for the most part, it's just a basic safety check. The vehicles are self-teched, so we have a tech sheet that you can either print out online and do beforehand, or we hand you one at the event when you check in. And it just goes over the basic stuff for driver safety, mechanical stuff, make sure your tires are in good shape, lug nuts tightened, brakes are good, that sort of stuff that you would see on almost any other organization's tech sheet. So.
Right. So I have a leather helmet that I raced when I was in the 1950 Indy 500. Is that good enough for this?
Don't think that one's going to quite pass muster. Okay. We do have certain helmet certifications, and we've got that in our rules on the website. If you're mostly going to be safe if you have a 2010 or newer Snell helmet.
Got it.
Which is actually very similar to the solo rules. If you've got something that is working for your SCCA solo club or autocross events, it will work in track night. There are a couple of obscure helmets that we are still allowing, but we don't want to get too much in the details.
Right.
But I have had a lot of people show up with helmets that are ECE rated. That's the European rating that they've become fairly cheap on the internet. People are shopping online a lot now, and a lot of the online helmets are coming from overseas with this ECE rating. We are still allowing those until the end of this year.
Got it. Okay.
So if anybody has one of those, it's still good until December 31, 2022. But I would like to recommend people go out and find a newer Snell approved helmet.
And it used to be you could use a motorcycle rated helmet from Snell. Is that still the case or no for this?
It's still the case for track night.
Okay.
Once we get into road racing, you have to have the SA helmets. But track night is still fine with a motorcycle designation for now.
Great. Tires, I'm guessing they don't have to be special tires, but they do have to be in good condition with a little bit of tread on them, right?
Yes, we would like the tires to be able to last an hour on track without too much drama. I think a lot of people, that are familiar with autocross kind of understand what a good tire to start with is and what a bad tire to start with is. But people that are coming to this brand new, and if the tire's got, decent tread on it and you're not down to where it won't pass inspection, you're going to be fine for an hour on track as long as you've got it properly air pressured up. So,
yeah, I like to tell people when you stick the penny in the tire, you want to see most of Lincoln's head go away. That's a kind of good indicator that you got enough tread on there and it should be fine. So, and that's good for just life in general, unless you're in Southern California where nobody puts new tires on their cars because it never rains here. And then when it does rain, the guys at the body shops get big grins on their faces because they know they're about to make a lot of money. So,
if you're doing track nights in Florida, you might want a little bit more tread. Yeah. It tends to rain all the time in Florida when we're having an event.
So that's the next question: rain or shine, right?
Rain or shine. I have had to stop an event once that I have actually been running just because of rain.
Okay.
It rained so hard one time that you couldn't see corner station to corner station, which is a big safety issue. And obviously, and we threw a black flag all, and the drivers, all came in, and I've congratulated them. Hey, thanks for everybody seeing the black flag all and coming into pit road as you should. This was a novice session, by the way. And they said, we didn't see the flag. We couldn't see the flag stations. We just came in because we couldn't see where we were going.
I thought maybe one person saw it and they just followed everybody else in.
No, it was one of those. They went out on their out lap, and first lap in, it just started pouring down rain so hard that they couldn't see. But the only time we actually will shut down an event is for lightning, for safety issues there.
All right. So how does the event run? What do typically when you show up, there's a start time. It'll be on whenever you sign up. You'll get the start time. So, how early should you be there? Let's start with that. How early should you be there? What happens when you first get to the event?
So for most of our events, I would say the gates probably open, between 1:30, 2:30, somewhere around there. It varies a little bit depending on the track. So definitely keep an eye on the event schedule, but get there as early as you can. So as soon as gates open, that way you can get in the check-in line and get all that taken care of. Find a nice paddock spot.
Right.
And you get through that, and you're going to have some meetings coming up. Usually, depending on the event and the schedule, they're going to be somewhere around 4:00, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit after, depending on the group you're in. And once we get done with those meetings, we're pretty much in the event proper at that point. Like I said, we run in a pretty condensed schedule. So we have about 4 hours of track time that we're scheduled for, and we run 3 groups through that. So once we put cars on track, we try not to stop the event until it gets dark.
And if I remember correctly, it's 20-minute sessions, right? So you're getting one session per hour, essentially?
Basically, yeah. You're scheduled for 3 20-minute sessions per group. The novice group actually gets an extra 20-minute session at the beginning of the event, which is behind a pace car.
Okay.
So it's pace laps for them to see the track, see the flag stations, know where the passing zones are. And then if we're on schedule and everything's going the way we hope it goes, usually in the middle of the event, we'll have a 20-minute track touring lap session, which is for anybody that's there. You don't have to have a helmet. You can have a passenger. You can bring your family out. If you've got an SUV or a truck, you can drive that out there because it's behind a pace car at slow speeds just to see the track. So we do that as well during the middle of the event. So we've got a couple of things going on, but yeah.
Right. So, and you mentioned a novice group. There's 3 groups. What are the 3 groups?
So we have a novice group, we have an intermediate group, and an advanced group, and they are differentiated a little bit by the amount of assistance and amount of attention they are given. The novice group has a novice coach, which is dedicated to them for the entire event. They get debriefs after each session to go over everything that happened. Just a lot more hands-on there to make sure that they're comfortable and have a great time. The intermediate group has their own coach as well, typically. And, they're given a little bit more rope to go out and enjoy it without, a lot of overbearing oversight. And then you've got the advanced group, which if you're selected into the advanced group, you're pretty much a regular at doing track days. And we're pretty hands off with the advanced group other than just monitoring the sessions and making sure everything's going okay from a safety standpoint. So
Got it. So,
okay. There are some different passing rules.
Okay. And what are those?
So sorry about that. So for the intermediate and the novice groups, it is passing only on the straightaways or where we have passing zones. For the advanced group, it is passing anywhere, but all of that for all the groups only happens with point bys.
Okay.
So it's all point by passing.
Got it. So now I know that there's a tremendous effort to keep these safe, but it is cars on a racetrack and things can happen. If I have an incident, do I call my insurance guy when I'm done and say, hey, what's my deductible? What happens with that?
Well, unfortunately, most of your typical auto insurance plans are not going to cover a track event. The good news is we have partnered up with Hagerty. Hagerty is a main partner for Track Night in America to offer track day insurance. So if you are looking to have some peace of mind on your car as you go out and drive it around, Hagerty is there. They give us a 30% discount from the rates just for being a Track Night participant. And we've got the links on our website to get to it. And they know us, we know them. They know exactly what you're doing. So it's super easy to get that taken care of, even as you're standing in line at check-in, to go ahead and take care of that.
Cool. So you can do it right on your phone if you didn't know about it when you showed up.
Yeah, I like to tell people that you can buy that insurance right up into the point you actually hit something, but I've never seen anybody be able to hover their finger over the button as they're sliding in off track to make that happen. So we try to encourage getting it taken care of while they're standing in line before the event happens.
Yeah, that's good advice. Good advice. And I've checked out the Track Night insurance, and it's not it's not expensive. It's not inexpensive, but it's, and there's usually a fairly big deductible. But if you're taking out your $30,000 car, it's a whole lot less money than not having it paid for at all.
Right. And we do see some very nice cars show up at track nights.
Yeah. I've seen, like I said, the track that I went to, there was some run-of-the-mill, regular old hatchbacks that you would think. And then there was a McLaren. There was a couple of Corvettes. What was there? I mean, there was some nice stuff there as well. So, and that's the other cool part is it is kind of part car show. So when you get there, take some time and walk around and talk with the people about their cars. Everybody loves to talk about their cars. So, you get to see some really good stuff there too.
Yeah, I do love the diversity that we see. Everything from, the mom's sedan that you might have just stole out of the garage to bring to the track night, all the way up to some really high performance machines.
So when the youngster shows up, do you ask if they've had permissions from mom and dad to use the car?
Well, if they're under 18, they're going to have some permissions.
Right.
We do have a minor waiver that needs to be taken care of, and that can be taken care of online now, which has made things a lot easier.
Sure.
But we do like to see, the younger crowd come out and participate. I got started in motorsports very late. Especially with the car side. I was already in my, mid-20s.
Right.
And, who knows where I'd be if I'd, started doing it, in my late teens.
Right. So what is the typical, I think we've pretty much covered what your first track night's going to be like. Mm-hmm. What is the typical track night participant look like? And I'm not talking about, cute or not cute, but I mean, what's the demographic? What's the, what are you seeing mostly is the people coming out to these, or is there no normal person to come out to a track night?
I look mostly at data when looking at that stuff. And the cool thing about it is we're about 50% SCCA members.
Okay.
So 50% of our participation is, people that are already involved in SCCA. So we're already kind of aware of the club demographics there. And then 50% of it are non-members. Okay. And it pretty much runs the gamut at that point. We do tend to lean a little bit more male than female, sure, which I would love to get some more female participation. I've got a lot of great, strong female coaches and event leads. And I really love to see female participation. I always joke with some of the guys that show up with their girlfriends in tow and their girlfriends aren't driving. And I'll go talk to the girlfriend while the guy's out on track, but you can be out there too. We'd love to have you out on track as well. So,
right.
But we see, all types of budgets, obviously from the types of cars that show up.
Sure.
And, I think that's what's great about the program is it's not a clique.
Right.
Other than the fact that it's just people that love cars, right, and cars of all types. So,
yeah. And car people are car people. Whether you're
right
at your Saturday morning coffee car show or whether you're at an IMSA race or the runoffs or the solo nationals, car people are car people. And that's why those of us who've been doing it, going on 40 years, keep coming back. I've seen every car I want to see for the most part. That's not why I'm coming to the racetrack anymore. It's fun. I love the cars. But those people are my family. So, and that's why I do it. But, so the other question I was going to ask you is, does the SCCA have data on the folks who come to the events who aren't SCCA members, how they're finding out about the track night events?
So I think that the marketing and promotion is really organic. I think a lot of them have just gone word of mouth through social media.
Okay.
I know the SCCA marketing team has done a really great job to get some ads and stuff up on social media. We've done some YouTube videos. And then we have emails and articles that go out to our SCCA members pretty constantly. But I think the bulk of it is just, people coming out, loving the events, loving the time that they're spending out there and telling other people about it. It's always more fun when you got your friends involved. So
Sure. What have we not talked about that we should have?
Obviously our partners.
Let's do that.
We could not do the track night events at the price point that we're at without, our partners being involved. And obviously Tire Rack is the biggest one involved there. They've been a huge supporter, our title sponsor for several years now, if not longer. And, they are the reason that our entry fees are where they're at and what makes that so reasonable. And then we've got this year specifically, we've got Haggerty, as we've already talked about, involved, and Falcon has come on board to do one of our month promotions.
Okay. And
we're still working on a promotion that we're getting ready to write up. I can't spill the details on it just yet. We're still getting the contract signed, but I think Hawk is going to come. Hawk Brakes is going to come support a month for us too this year. So,
well, I'll throw it out there since I know you probably don't want to. I'll throw the pitch out there. If you're in the car biz and you want to get your name and your brand in front of enthusiasts with dollars to spend, check out the, call the folks at SCCA.com and you can get all of if you go on SCCA.com, you can get to the national staff and find the marketing team. They're the ones you got to call, and they'd be happy to take your check. And I've found that the return, when SCCA has a sponsor, they do a really good job of helping get that sponsor's information to the people who are the participants. So I've been on the receiving end of that, and I mean that's the best part of any motorsports relationship is the fact that you're going to get yourself in front of those folks. So I'll throw the pitch out there. I don't get paid to do it, and I'm happy to do that. A lot of people are always afraid to make the ask, so I make the ask for them. Cool. Can't do it without the partners, and especially at that price point, because I know what it costs to rent a racetrack for a day. It is not cheap. And I'm sure you guys get a decent deal because you're doing it at night during the week, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah. And some tracks are more affordable than others. Sure. But we pride ourselves on being able to go to places like Daytona and VIR and in Lime Rock, these big, name tracks. And I don't think we could do it if it wasn't for the partners helping us out, but B, also our participants.
Right.
Just wanting to come out and do our events and drive with us. And, that says a lot to the longevity of the program that we can continue to put people on tracks that, a lot of clubs can't afford to run. And I talk to a lot of smaller track event clubs and, looking like, they just can't afford to rent a full day at VIR or something like that. So I feel very proud that we can offer that to people, not just SCCA members, but also non-members who we hope one day will become SCCA members.
Sure. Well, Justin, thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening to sit back with us and talk about it. I love the program, and the couple times I've been able to go out and be part of it and check it out. They're well-run events. People have fun. I've never heard anybody complain about them. I'm sure someone does about something, but because that's our nature. But generally speaking, they're pretty well received from what I understand and the people I've talked to and my experiences. And I hope that this continues to be something we do for a long time.
I as well, and I really thank you for your support on it.
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the SCCA. As I always tell people, if you like what you're hearing, please hit the subscribe button so you can find out what the next episode's going to be. It'd also be great if you'd leave a comment on social media, especially if it's a good one. If it's a bad one, leave it on someone else's podcast page. You can follow us on social media to find out who the next guests are. On Twitter, we are at RacingWireNet. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Belansky. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.
I'm Abby Shear, and this is Inside.
And welcome to Inside the SCCA. We are live at the Runoffs. Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. I'm Brian Belansky, along with Greg Ginsburg. This is our halftime show. We got through the morning unscathed.
Oh, well, we did. We may not have the same story with Dave Panteric, but it was definitely a challenging morning, no doubt, for many of our racers on track today in these very damp conditions.
Damp conditions. This is why you can see it right here. It is wet, more wet, and wet. Moist.
Yes.
We can call a lot of different things. This is our live weather radar. This has been problematic right from the first race of the day. We have been wet the whole time, and but it's been good.
Yeah.
We actually made it. I was impressed. 43 racing laps this morning before our first full course yellow.
Yeah,
under these conditions.
And we were talking between or after our first show this morning how last year at Indianapolis there was a plethora of race laps under full course caution, even in the dry conditions. So a really big surprise here, as many of our drivers out on course really dealt with the rain quite well. We saw some drivers just finishing up in that GT1 race,
right.
Also in Formula F as well. And by we'll talk about it a little bit later. What a race by Jonathan Kotick to take the win in Formula F today.
Definitely. So we're going to be with you here till about 12:55 or so, depending on when they start firing up the broadcast for the afternoon races, and we're going to go through our morning races. We're going to talk a little bit with some guests. We've got Jay Chapman from Goodyear Tires is going to be with us, and we've got that, and just a ton of good stuff. So let's get right to it.
The wet in a fairly small field, but a national championship is second in a row nonetheless.
All right, we're going to have to go to our next race of the day, and that was going to be, what was it?
That was T1.
T1.
With Andrew Aquilante picking up his 12th national championship. He did start from pole with Mark Bowden in his BMW, Andrew Aquilante in the Ford Mustang, Bowden in a BMW. Sandy Satullo in a BMW as well, finishing second and third. But this was the Andrew Aquilante show. The only other racer to finish on the lead lap was Mark Bowden, and same story, and perhaps maybe even to much more of an extreme. Andrew Aquilante, who has a lot of time here at Virginia International Raceway, in the dry, in the wet, pretty much from the drop of the green flag, was putting on a clinic. And when you lap almost the entire field, that shows you, when you have over a minute and a half
right.
on the majority of the other drivers, how strong a run he had. And again, his 12th national championship, and he's looking for at least one more this weekend.
Also, now we can talk about our third race of the day. This was the Formula Ford race. This was pretty exciting. This is the race where we finally got our first full course caution.
Yes.
And it was exciting. And that's the one thing you always, when you add rain to the mix, everything becomes exciting.
Yeah, and now this was a race that finished under full course caution.
Right.
We had gone, I believe, 12 out of 15 laps under green. Jonathan Kotick was challenged on the very first lap going down into turn number one,
right.
But it only took about a half a lap for him to work back to the lead, and he was able to really stretch things out over the rest of the field. Now we'll talk about the rest of the podium here, as Trevor Russell managed to work his way up into second and had for a good portion a pretty uneventful race. Until we had then I believe Nolan Allaire, and we also had And you'll have to excuse me because all of a sudden I'm.
It's Porter Aiken.
It was actually
fourth.
It was actually Porter Aiken, who had been running up in second place, and just as Russell and Allaire were catching up, Aiken put the car off track. Both Russell and Allaire were able to move up, but I don't think that's the full story. On the opening lap, Nolan Allaire, who came home in third, had an off at the hog pen turn, very last turn here on course, and went for a very long ride through the grass. Doesn't look like he ever lifted, but made a great recovery, was able to bring that car onto the front straight, and both he and he was closing up on Trevor Russell, actually had worked his way up into second place at one point, fell off the track again, came home in third, but a great run for all of those drivers, and Jonathan Kotek, I believe, his fourth national championship.
Yeah, definitely nice job there. And now we get to talk about the GT race.
Yeah, the GT race. Tom Herb, for the second year in a row, is your national champion in GT1. We talked about this during the morning show. Last year at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it was a call on the pit lane to bring him down the pit lane on the very first lap in his Porsche 911 GT3 car to change from the dry tires to the wet tires, and they made that call before any other racer, and he went on to win a national championship. Well, he did it again today. Went out as the whole field did it on wets, but Dave Pintark, our pole sitter, from the drop of the green flag just past the start-finish stand, found himself off in the grass, recovered, went off track a second time, coming through turns 5 and going into the snake, got his car out of the pit wall, or probably out of the tire wall, and was starting to make his way back up to the rest of the field, had worked his way all the way up into second place with just a few laps to go, going down in turn 1, brake lockup, and all the way off into the berm, was not able to continue on, and unfortunate run for him. Might also add Michael Lewis, who had jumped out to an early lead here, had to retire the car early. He was not able to see out the front windshield, and obviously for safety reasons pulled the car back down the pit lane. And so we had Tom Hart with his second national championship in a row, Ryan McManus in that beautiful bright orange, day glow orange Chevy Corvette coming home in second, and Jerry Hinkle, who also had an off at T1 early on in this race, was able to recover, brought his Dodge Challenger home in third.
Yes, that was Jeff Hinkle in third.
Yeah,
and
Jeff Hinkle, not Jerry
Hinkle.
The
Pintark story is just heartbreaking because not only did he have his problems on the first laps, he had actually made his way back to second place before that last incident.
And at one point was running somewhere along the lines of 8 to 10 seconds faster than our eventual winner.
Yeah, absolutely hooked up, and the drive of the day until it wasn't, you know.
Right.
It was just one of those stories, and there's always one of those every runoffs where you have those situations, and I don't know if we've gotten that out of the way on our first day and our first morning of racing, but nonetheless, definitely a big story to talk about. So I will say, just general overview or thoughts from the morning. I think that we've had wet weather, but nothing torrential, thankfully. No. And I think for the most part, it's been a pretty stout, performance by all the drivers out there. We've only had, I think it was just one full course yellow all morning, right?
Yeah, the full course caution to end the Formula F race, the only one. We've seen where a number of drivers early on in the races may be overdriving as they're trying to get some heat in the tires, which they do need even with these rain tires in order to get grip. But for the most part, not the heaviest rain. However, what we are seeing here is, I think, perhaps because of the size of the fields, and also we've had two classes with cars with very small tires, Formula 500, Formula F, not a lot of ability to evacuate water off of the track surface itself, and so that the track has become more damp. There are a lot of puddles, and some things that these drivers, as they're experimenting, trying to find the fast way around the course, have had to adapt lap after lap in order to make their way to the checkered flag.
So we're going to talk about the afternoon races in just a bit. We'll get that in, and we got a couple of guests coming up, so let's do this. Let's take a break, okay. And when we come back, we'll have Jay Chapman from Goodyear Racing Tires. He's going to be with us. We'll do that right after this. This is Inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear Racing Tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven.
Sentinel by Candelaria Racing Products is a comprehensive motorsports video system, incorporating live streaming, local recording, picture-in-picture, flag status, leaderboards, data overlays, and more. Perfect for endurance racing, sprint racing, and HPDE, Sentinel includes everything you need to get started. With the ability to control the live feed from the cloud, and GPS Auto Start will never miss an on-track moment. What are you waiting for? Get your Sentinel today.
We are back inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires. And we have Jay Chapman here.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
You're part of why we're here. Thank you. Let's start with that. Let's get that out of the way early.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys helping us out and being here for our coverage, and we couldn't do it without you. But you are more of the story today than we expected.
Yes.
Because everyone's had to scramble and figure out how to get, how to set up their cars with racing tires on it. So let's talk rain tires.
It's been a busy couple days.
I bet.
Everybody in preparation for the rain that obviously is here, and keeping teams very busy with switching over to rain tires. We've had teams look into hand carving their own tires, cutting intermediates, full wets. Just a lot of tire management going on in the teams right now.
Do you guys help them with that process? Do you teach them how to do it if they need it, or is that something you don't want them to do?
We've got some talented teams out there that are doing it themselves. Right. We have dealers, distributors here in the area that are doing it for them. A couple different patterns that they've been using. Some want more, some want less cut out. Some want a softer compound taken out. Some want their full reins kind of sharpened up. So no, it's been very busy, very busy.
So when you look at the forecast, a week ahead of time and decide what you're going to put in that truck to bring here, how does that change when you see a hurricane in the forecast?
And that's the thing. When we started the whole process, it was just a tropical storm number 9. It wasn't even, trucks were loaded and fill them up. But then there was some reaction to the hurricane coming, the timing of races. So we did have a truck that brought more. So yeah, you do react, and you have to kind of pay attention to what's going on and try to stay in front of it. So not only we can react, but the people behind the scenes, our supply chain, our warehouse, the shipping company.
Well, and don't you have to have those tires already made. You can't just say, I need another 500 rain tires. That's something that has to be on the production line months ago, right?
Correct. We always kind of joke, you can only sell what you got.
Right.
So when we started, planning out and timing and what, obviously we're not the only thing that they build in that plant. There's another big race series or two that they build in that plant.
Couple.
So yeah, they fit us in, and we did take a little bit of a gamble. It was close on timing with some of our rains, and we did do a small production to get, super fresh rain tires for our prototype guys here. And we were able to accomplish that, and that was part of some of the last minute unloading that we were able to accomplish.
What classes are you guys primarily focusing on here in SCCA racing?
Open competition classes are our real main focus inside of SCCA. We don't have any of the spec tire classes, which allows us to work in depth with our teams. In all the open competition, the only one we're not in is F500 right now. But we've made a big gain inside of the touring classes. The DOT lineup has been a large portion of our catalog growth in the past year. But we still want to focus on our P1, P2, GT1, GT3, GTL programs. GT2, we've got Scotty White this year. Running tires are actually produced by our colleagues in Germany. So we've got a variety of tires that we're bringing to the Runoffs now. But our focus is producing the best quality product, the fastest tire for, those open tire classes.
So for any vendor of any type, whether it's a tire vendor, whether it's an equipment vendor, to commit to coming here is a big deal. And I always talk about value. We want to get more people involved in our sport. It's the pinnacle of amateur racing, we call it, and I think it is in North America, definitely. What is the benefit from a vendor standpoint of being involved with the SCCA? If another vendor is kind of considering, joining us and being part of this, what would you tell them?
I think the benefit is there's a wide variety of cars. You get to experiment with what we just saw with GT1. You get to come to prototype stuff. You get to do some of the lower horsepower cars, the production cars, the touring cars. So there's value in that. There's value in the amount of places we go to. The super tours, a fine-tuned group of races that you can target. You can make sure that you've got certain people set up for certain events, certain distributors, or certain. So it gives you a market to be in. It's very targeted. It's easy to plan for. You can kind of prepare. You can kind of keep doing better every year, as we've kind of continued to do here with the runoffs. We always want a little bit better presence every year.
And for those of you who might think that our vendors aren't invested in our drivers, you should have been here an hour and a half ago at the start of the GT1 race. Dave Panterick is one of your guys, and you were as involved, as interested, as concerned, as upset. I mean, you had all this range of emotions, and you're not even the owner of the car or the driver. He's got your tires on the car.
Correct, and we're extremely passionate about GT1. We're extremely passionate about the prototypes. And yeah, we do get highly invested inside of our teams, to the point where you know the crew chiefs, the guys working on the cars, you're invested. There's a part of you that's out there, and the whole team gets that way, and it's kind of the nice part about not having a spec class. We can get that way with our teams. We can help them to become the best as they can.
So where does the future of Goodyear and SCCA go from here? Just kind of doing the same thing, doing what you're doing?
Growth. I mean, just continue, never stop pressing, keep being more driven, try to keep, going after more trophies, and continue to make a better product. I want to see growth inside of our DOT product. I want to continue to keep our market base inside of our prototypes and our GT1. So, just keep working on it.
Cool. What do you think for the rest of your weekend?
Man, we need to start getting some trophies.
Yeah,
that's where we're at. That's what makes this all worth it. At the end of the day, when you get that picture and you got the hat, you got the tire, you got the trophy, you got the champagne bottle, that's what it's here. That's what we're here for.
So, do you want more rain or less rain?
Yes.
What's good for Goodyear?
Yes. So no, we're whatever comes, we can react, and we've got the product for it. So just go from there.
All right. Anything else we should know before we head out?
No, just appreciate everything you guys are doing for us. This is great. Vintage Racers for Rescues, of course, our partners that helped get us here. No, just appreciate everything you guys are doing for the SCCA.
Cool. All right, that's going to do it for this segment of Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. When we come back, we're going to introduce you to a very, very interesting person and a pretty good race car driver as well. Actually, a very good race car driver. I should not discount that. We'll do that next on Inside the SCCA. Stay with us. Vintage Racers for Rescues. Racers rescuing dogs and cats from high-kill rural shelters and high-risk situations. Virginia and North Carolina have the third highest euthanasia rate in the U.S., and Vintage Racers for Rescues founders Robin and Dave Handy decided to do something about it. Vintage Racers for Rescues is a 501c3 charity that saves between 300 and 400 animals every year, nursing them back to health, finding foster homes, and eventually forever homes. VintageRacersForRescues.com. Use the QR code to find them on the web or to make a donation.
Corgi Sport is your one-stop shop for new and used mini parts and accessories. Whether it's driven on the street or on the racetrack, we have everything you need. From the small interior parts all the way to used and rebuilt motors. And with our sponsorship of the GPM race team, who travel to more than 30 tracks east of the Mississippi, we have a built-in delivery system that can save money on delivering large parts. Our line of Corgi Sport apparel celebrates the special bond between mini owners and their dogs. Mention this ad for a 10% discount at corgisport.com.
Racing for Heroes is proud to be a partner of Inside the SCCA. RFH is a nonprofit devoted to helping veterans suffering from the seen and unseen wounds of war through racing and our range of programs. RFH's programs include health and wellness, motorsports therapy, community outreach, education, and employment. Visit racingforheroes.org to learn more and find out how you can help. Cruise Associates is honored to have sponsored this message. And we are back on Inside the SCCA live from the Runoffs. Here's what we've got coming up this afternoon after we got done here. E-Production is our 1 o'clock race, and it should get off pretty much at 1 o'clock, it looks like. 2 p.m., Spec Racer Ford 3, followed by Super Touring Under. 4 o'clock is Touring 3. And then at 5 o'clock, we've got Formula X. And then if you haven't gotten enough of me and Greg, tune back in at 5:45. And we're going to do a Runoffs After Dark, a complete recap of today. We'll look ahead a little bit at tomorrow, and we'll do all of those things there. All right. Now, I am very, very excited because joining us here at this moment, I'm hitting all the cameras till I get the right one. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Kara Berend is here. Welcome. Oh, I should turn your microphone up. Try that again.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is awesome.
I was all verklempt because we're on TikTok now also, and I'm my kid would be very, very impressed that Pop's going to be on TikTok. So thank you so much.
Let's get you in there then.
Yeah, I got to get.
Right
there we go. Now I'm on TikTok. Okay, my first time on the TikTok. Welcome.
Thank you so much again for having me.
B-Spec.
Yes,
your
sir.
race is tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
You're ready to go?
Yes. All ready. We got rain tires. I'm ready.
You're ready. How was qualifying for you?
First day of practice was a little gnarly. I came off of 14 and ended up hitting a tire wall. Just lost all traction, lost brakes, and made a mistake. You know, it happens. Got back into qualifying, still sitting at the back of the pack, but hoping to make up some time in the rain.
Sure. And your trip and your route to get to the Runoffs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I race for an organization. It's a nonprofit called the Hands-On Driving Academy, and it is the only place in the country that you can go as a disabled vet, and we will teach you how to drive a race car and get you licensed through the SCCA to be able to kind of live out your dreams.
Right. So you mentioned disabled vet. We haven't talked about it.
Yep.
You can't see it on the camera because we've got you behind a table.
Yeah, I live on wheels.
You're always on wheels,
I
whether
am.
you're racing or not. Tell us a little bit about how you got to be a disabled vet.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force for 7.5 years, and about 3 years in, I was diagnosed with a neurological disease after surgery that progressively paralyzed me.
So was it a service-related injury?
Service-related, yeah.
Okay. And you're clearly not letting that slow you down.
Not at all. Wheels go fast.
Yeah. And you do a lot of other things. You don't just do SCCA, right?
No, I race dirt. I play wheelchair rugby. Anything that gets the adrenaline going is kind of my thing.
I find that I hear that a lot. We work with Racing for Heroes. Racing for Heroes, they're one of our sponsors this weekend, and a couple of other organizations. And I find that what I hear is that vets, when they come home and try to get back into civilian life, are lacking two things: that sense of camaraderie and teamwork that you get from being in a unit, no matter what the unit is, and that sense of like adrenaline and purpose.
Yeah.
Is that something that you are able to get through doing this?
Yeah, and we're finding a lot with the veterans that we're working with, the guys that are coming home. When they have PTSD, it's usually because there's a chemical memory of the accident or the incident that's happened, right? And if we can flood their brain with positive adrenaline that helps them kind of work through that, we're finding a lot of these guys are able to really change their outlook and start getting things back on track.
And isn't it the first, 3-4 years home are the most critical?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my first year home, I wasn't even deployed. I was just in the Air Force doing intel work. But my first year out of the military was the roughest part of my life. It's hard to figure out where you belong, what your purpose is, and who you're going to be after this.
So did you have organizations at that point to go to?
Yeah, I went to a nonprofit called Oscar Mike. They were started by a Marine veteran who came off of the invasion of Iraq unscratched, came home on leave, and ended up getting hit by a drunk driver and turned into a quadriplegic. So that was pretty rough. He started a nonprofit to help other quadriplegics and severely injured warriors figure out how to kind of get through life again. So that was my first taste of independence.
So what is your goals for this weekend here?
My goals is I'm hoping to get up into the top 20 this weekend. Rain is kind of an equalizer.
Sure.
I'm running an automatic transmission in the car, so I'm down on power, but I am a dirt driver, so rain is my forte, so I'm here for it.
Ready to go.
Oh, yes.
Ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
How do you prepare for that? I mean, we haven't had rain all week.
Nope.
And we wake up this morning and it's pouring.
Mhm.
Not pouring, but it's wet, and it's probably going to be wet tomorrow. Are you hoping for rain tomorrow?
I am absolutely hoping for rain. That is when I'm going to come out and dominate.
I love that. I love that. What else do we need to know about you? I mean, you just got a fascinating story.
I appreciate that. My favorite color is blue, and I like long walks on the beach.
I don't believe that. Or maybe it's true.
You two have so much in common.
I know. I know. I don't. The one place I don't like is the beach. We'll walk on a golf course. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. And what do you have coming up after?
I am actually headed to a rugby tournament right after this, and then headed over to the UTV World Championships, where we're going to go and try and podium up there.
Are you participating in the rugby tournament?
I am.
Right?
Yeah.
Is this so? It's a Paralympic type sport.
Yep, wheelchair rugby. It's a Paralympic sport recognized by all of the countries in the NATO treaty and many outside of it.
Nice. Do you have anything, Mr. Greg?
Am I supposed to look?
Jump in. I mean,
yeah. No. Well, I wanted to see. So last year you ran at Indianapolis.
Yes, sir.
And is there anything that you learned being your first SCCA National Championship event, bringing that into VIR? Anything that you want to change? Did you come in with more or less the same mindset, or did you approach this week a little bit differently?
We approached this week a little bit differently. There's a lot more film preparation, a lot more, because I haven't been to this track before. There's not a lot that I can really do to prepare personally. So film. Make sure that you figure out the lines that you're going to be needing and doing some good reconnaissance for the rain so that I can figure out where it's going to be a river on the track.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. What is the long-term goal for you? Because I'll be honest with you, one of the stories I follow is Robert Wickens.
Yep.
And he has proven, not that really I think anybody really needed to be proven, that you can go at the highest level of motorsports regardless of what your abilities or challenges are.
Oh yeah.
Obviously his is not a service-related injury. He was injured at a horrible wreck at Pocono. But I'm sure the challenges are very much similar.
Oh yes.
Where do you want to go with all this?
I want to be the fastest disabled person racing.
Nice.
And hopefully the fastest person racing.
Yeah, we're going to keep in touch. We're going to follow your future. We're going to have you on a full podcast here down the road and really dig into all this. And I'm so happy that you're able to come up and talk with us. And good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Have fun.
Always.
And take it all in and enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, real quick, Greg, we've got this partnership with Spark Virtual Racing.
Yes.
Have you met the Twig yet? Have you seen the Twig yet?
I haven't.
So, are you familiar with the Stig?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the Twig.
Ooh.
Yes, we have a top level driver.
Okay.
And who went to Spark Virtual Racing and raced their $80,000 sim rig here in an MX-5 Cup car. And we're going to show how he did.
Okay.
And anybody who's here at the Runoffs can go up to the pavilion where they're all set up and try to beat the Twig.
So I wonder if they have hand controls on that simulator.
They do not.
Ooh, I guess I'm out of the running.
They do not. So we'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to do that next. This is Inside the SCCA, and here is the Twig. A Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, a two-time champion of the 12 Hours of Sebring, a member of the prestigious Road Racing Drivers Club, and the Twig. Today we find the Twig at Virginia International Raceway, driving an MX-5 Cup car. The Twig is driving Spark Virtual Racing's S600. The S600 is a full-on driver training simulator. Unlike entry-level sim systems, this rig moves across all 6 degrees of freedom, making it a truly full-motion system that provides maximum feedback from the car. At $80,000, it's the ultimate training tool, providing a seat-of-the-pants feel that's remarkably close to what you feel when you are at the track. Let's find out what kind of lap time the Twig can lay down at VIR.
So we are out here at Virginia International Raceway in a Global MX-5 car here on the Spark Virtual Racing Halo Motion Simulator here. Trying to go for a fast lap. And man, it's different, right? Driving this Spec Miata car, I can feel it really starting to understeer, move around a little bit more. You can feel the softness of this car, which is so much different than a lot of the cars that I'm used to driving, the stiffer aero platforms of modern GT3 cars. They don't slide around as much. They don't have the pendulum effect of a soft MX-5 car here. Alrighty, think about hog pen. Let's get that good run out of here. All that curve. Rolling down, flat, right at the compression. There we go. Car sliding. Woo, every inch of the road there. That was a pretty decent exit. Get ready for a fast lap here. So I need that late aggressive break into turn 1, looking for that 3 board. The 5th gear, take a breath, getting ready, eyes are in, boom, 3 board, there we go. Down to the apex point, back to full throttle, let the car be free out of here, go, 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 don't scrub speed. Thinking about turn 3, I want to be nice and light on the brakes to roll in speed. Nice and light, there we go, get down to that apex point, hey, what do you know, there we go, use all the road, that was okay, not great, into turn 4. Ooh, a little late on that turn-in point, not great, that's going to cost me some lap time. Alright, I need to be flat from here on out, all the way to turn 10. Let's use this curve here, to do a little release, a little early on the turn-in point, get it together, hands straight, and we're good. Whew, take a breath into the S's here. You need to be inch perfect. The first S, so that everything else is just working out for me. There we go, that was a good one. Jump this curve. Keep that right foot on the floor, right foot on the floor. Come on. Alrighty, nice and light on the brakes, roll speed into turn 10. There it goes, float, 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 use every inch of the road. Nice. Braking just past the 2 board. Boom, hard on the initial brake. There we go, release enough, roll speed, there we go. Back to flat the apex point, get the run out of here onto the back straightaway. Could have used a little bit more speed through Oak Tree, but my exit was good, and that's my main priority here. Take a nice breath, down the back straightaway, big brake zone coming up. I need to make sure I hit that apex point in turn 14, but I need to make sure I'm maximizing my brake pressure too. Nice and late on the brakes. Looking for that aero board, let's go. Wham, hard on the brakes, get the car slowed down. Can I get it? No, too much speed, but I need to go, 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 go. Don't let it cost you. There we go. Alrighty, attack it through hog pen, turning in flat. Use this curve, light on the brakes again. Car rotates, boom, back to full throttle. Come on, car, come on, car. Tell me I don't suck today with my lap time, please. And it's still not gonna be very fast. Come on, let's go. Come on. Well, that's a little bit better.
All right, so that's the Twig, 212.91. You can see it right there on the screen. So if you're here at the Runoffs, go on up to the pavilion. Stop by the Spark Virtual Racing rig, and check them out. It is a great little setup there that they've got going on, and check out, see if you can beat the Twig. And at the end of the weekend, we will reveal who the Twig is. And
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Well, you know. There's only it's like the secrecy of like the Oscar ballots, you know, PricewaterhouseCooper.
It's Brian.
Exactly. It's Brian Donati, our faithful assistant here this weekend. So that's the Twig. And that's Spark Virtual Racing. What a great group of guys. I had so much fun putting that video together. And you can go check them out. And
we were up there during the block party on Wednesday night, and had a huge line of both drivers and also family members there taking a swing here at VIR in that MX-5 Cup car. And if it weren't for the fact that, and it's odd, I get car sick when I do virtual racing.
I do too.
And actually take Dramamine before I get behind the wheel. Yep. I wanted to make sure that they could actually take more customers on Wednesday night. I didn't want to ruin it for anybody.
There you go. All right, we're going to take a quick break because we've got to be out of here by 1 o'clock. That's when racing's going to get started. So we'll do this right now. You are listening to Inside the SCCA, actually, and watching. We got video. This is a whole new thing for us. You are watching Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racers for Rescues. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Vintage Racers for Rescues. Racers rescuing dogs and cats from high-kill rural shelters and high-risk situations. Virginia and North Carolina have the third highest euthanasia rate in the U.S., and Vintage Racers for Rescues founders Robin and Dave Handy. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear Racing Tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven. The Roadkeeper HD video and data logger was developed using our experience in motorsports, driving experiences, and beyond. It brings dual stream HD video combined with high-quality GPS data within reach of everyone at the track or on the road. Travinci Systems is an official Runoffs contingency sponsor, and it's not too late to sign up. On-site registration is available at the contingency desk in Tech. The Roadkeeper HD meets SCCA's requirements for forward-facing cameras. Take advantage of 2022 Runoffs pricing for the Roadkeeper HD, $324 plus shipping. That's $75 off. Offer is good through Christmas. And we're back inside the SCCA, live from the Runoffs. This is our halftime show. We're at lunch. We got about 15 minutes left before we go racing again, and it's been a rather adventurous morning here. We'll pop it up one more time. This is our weather radar. This is live at 12 or 11.
And we better make sure that there's audio. I got word that perhaps earlier
there is audio. No, I fixed that this morning, so we fixed that problem. But anyway, this is our National Weather Service live radar, and as you can see, we are right in the center there of the screen pretty much, and it's wet, and it's going to be wet for most. Although there's a little bit of spot here. We may get some fun here a little later on today. But
Charlottesville,
But we're back here and having a good time. I'm Brian Belansky. Greg Ginsburg's my faithful partner here for the next 2.5 days, because we're already almost through day one already, halfway through day one. Great racing this morning, despite the weather. And actually, I might even say because of the weather, it really was exciting, you know?
Yeah, and as we suspected, during qualifying, we saw some of the pole sitters really dominate the rest of the field. And I think, in particular, that very last race, that GT1 race, where Dave Pinteric really was head and shoulders above the rest of the field. We saw everybody nice and close, nice and tight, and saw much better racing than maybe some of us had expected.
All right, so now we have to think about what's going to happen for the rest of today. Let's start looking at our next 5 races. So 4 races in the morning, 5 races in the afternoon. Here is, hold on a second. There we go. Here are our qualifiers for E-Production. Jesse Prather. We've heard his name before, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
just perhaps, yeah. Jesse, our reigning national champion in E-Production, and he is actually, I guess, 2 times running in E-Production. 3 years ago here at Virginia International Raceway, he was your pole sitter. The race went the full course caution and had a little trouble getting heat back in the tires and had to make the recovery drive, I think, of the runoffs and maybe of his life, as he fell all the way to the back of the pack, worked his way up to the 3rd step of the podium, and in really what is a veritable rocket ship in E-Production in his Jesse Prather Motorsports BMW Z3.
And a lot of the cars in this class are powered by motors he built.
Yes.
So even if he doesn't win, there's a good chance he's going to win, right?
Yeah, in one way or another, some would say he's already won.
Exactly.
Here. As we have Prather on the pole, John Hainsworth out of Vineland, New Jersey, in his Turf Trade Hoosier Carbotech Mazda RX-7, second fastest, but almost a full second off of Prather's times. Then we've got John Brackey starting on the inside of row number 2. Now, Brackey has been running a Mazda Miata for the past number of years. He now is in a Jesse Prather powered BMW Z3. Brian Donati and I were watching practice on the first day of practice out on Saturday, and Brackey was still trying to come to grips with that white number 89 machine, and had some offs, had some challenges, and obviously as it came to Tuesday and our first of 3 days of qualifying, he managed to really find a groove here. He set his fast time, as did the majority of our E-Production drivers, find their best times on our second day of qualifying here, and about 2.5 seconds though off the pole time set by Prather. And of course, we've got Tim Schreier, who's always strong in his 3 Series BMW and E30 BMW. Peter Norton, for for those that are used to watching his Lotus Super 7, a different color this year. It'll be maybe a little harder to track, but that Super 7, very light, very nimble. You'd think that it may not be the weapon for the long straightaways here at Virginia International Raceway. But again, the wet conditions definitely going to be the equalizer. I think he's got a great choice. And Doug Piner, also in a BMW Z3 out of the North Carolina region of the SCCA. He has a lot of track knowledge here at his home track, Virginia International Raceway.
One of the things to bring up, and we've had such fantastic weather before today. Many classes have broken track records in qualifying.
Quite a bit under the record.
Definitely one of them. Yep, that was they beat the existing class record, and I don't know exactly how many. I should go back and count.
Almost 2 seconds.
But no, but I'm talking about how many classes broke records here.
Many. Now, of course, you can't technically set a track record in qualifying.
Right, but they're qualifying records.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So really impressive with all of that. Well, let's move on now to our Spec Racer Ford 3 top qualifiers.
Yeah.
Franklin Futrell is our pole sitter. And then, of course, you've got Russ Turner.
Yeah, and Futrell. It was very interesting watching as Futrell, all 3 days in qualifying, waited until the entire grid had rolled off, and he was your fastest driver after the first day of qualifying, but would wait until the entire 43 field. 43 drivers other than him rolled off. And as we had things set up here during qualifying, we were using the south end starter stand right out of Oak Tree as the start-finish line. And Futrell would let the drivers go out. They'd get the green flag. They'd start their first flying lap, and then he would join the fray. And it essentially gave him an extra lap to get his tires up to temperature, and he'd then join that front end of the field. And in doing so, he was your tire rack pole sitter with a fast time of 2:03.716, about a tenth of a second faster than Russ Turner. Now, we do have John Black and Denny Stripling. John Black, our very first Spec Racer Ford Gen 3 national champion, and I think the drivers that you want to look for, and he is sitting at the very bottom of that screen. Bobby Sack, our reigning national champion, has won the last 2 years in a row, and it should be interesting to note that last year when he took the win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he had started 6th.
Oh, wow.
So, maybe that's a harbinger of things to come, but again, all things, maybe up for grabs here in the wet.
Definitely. And it should be noted that the top 10 cars in this qualifying order all qualified faster than the existing qualifying record.
Yes.
So that's what we were talking about earlier. Okay, let's move right along because we are going to run out of time here real quickly here.
STU.
STU, this is a big one.
Yeah, definitely. Johann Schwartz on the pole in the Kip Van Steenberg Porsche 944. I said Jesse Prather's car is a rocket ship. This thing is like an Atlas rocket. I mean, it is. I think the trap speeds are about 5 to 7 miles an hour faster than anything else in the class. This car is actually a former E-Production champion car, and Johann Schwartz, a pro racer who's come back and run with us in SCCA this year. He stands out as having in the Guinness Book of World Records the longest drift ever. So I was hoping to see a victory lap in the dry and what that would be like. He might just take the entire 3.27 miles, maybe break another Guinness Book of World Records. Joe Moser, who is our reigning national champion in his King Motorsports Hoosier Carbotech Honda CRX, qualified about 0.8 of a second off of Johann Schwartz's times, but here in the wet, that front wheel drive car, I think can have an advantage, but Schwartz, again, even in the rear wheel drive Porsche, I think stands to do quite well. Some drivers that we should be looking for, however, Mark Liller, who is starting 6th in his Dodge Neon SRT front-wheel drive car. You can't discount that. Also, Chip Herr, and this may be the driver you want to look for. Chip Herr, who last year brought back to the runoffs the Audi A4 that he ran in Pirelli World Challenge in the early 2000s, an all-wheel drive car, had a big shunt in that machine, at the Pit Race Super Tour event, and they got it rebuilt, but he's been having transmission issues. Took the car out for a hardship practice earlier today, came up to inform the race officials that he will be going to a backup car. So although he had qualified 7th, he is going to be starting at the tail end of a 21 car field, but he's going to be in an all-wheel drive Subaru WRX, and so that might be very good here in the wet.
All right, let's move along now to T3, another one of those tin tops. It could be a lot of fun in the rain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As we've got BMW Z4 on the pole. It's the Alpine Hoosier Bimmer World machine of Jason Ott, and he is going to be starting on the inside of row 1. Jason Ott's going to be starting on the inside of row 1. Steve Ott's going to be starting on the inside of row number 2 in an identical car. But we've got our reigning national champion, Marshall Mast, and his Ford Mustang starting to the outside. Somebody I would not discount, Robbie Hine, starting on the outside of row number 2, driving the Nissan 370ZX. He is a former national champion in the class, and actually there are many national champions in the class. So definitely this is going to be another one of those very, very competitive races here.
All right, let's move on. Our last race of the day, FX, Formula X. Trevor Russell, young up-and-coming driver. He's our pole sitter here.
Yeah, and we just talked about Trevor Russell in the Formula F race as well, and he drove the wheels off the car and got a podium position there in Formula F. Austin Hill also. Very, very well driven car this week in qualifying. Now, I think one of the drivers that we need to look for is Kevin Fandozzi in his Mygale. Now, that car has had some issues over the course of the week, so we definitely want to look there. But if he can keep that car and keep it running, I think he's a former T3 national champion. Definitely stands a chance of coming home with the gold medal.
All right, that's going to get us to the end of our show here. Real quick, we want to take a second here and give a big shout out. These fancy shirts that we're wearing, they come to us from the good people over at shirts.com and Rick at shirts.com. If you want some help with that and you want shirts, if you want to go buy Runoff shirts while you're here, head right downstairs from the Pagoda. There's a great merchandise trailer, and if you're not here, you can go to SCCAgear.com and get that going. So we're going to check out here because we're just a few minutes away from racing action started. Keep an eye on SCCA.com as well as SCCA's YouTube channel. They're going to have all of the race action coming up for the rest of the afternoon. Of course, don't forget to come back to us. We'll be here right after the last race of the day. I'm Brian Belansky. He's Greg Ginsburg. This is Inside the SCCA, presented by Goodyear Racing Tires and Vintage Racing for Rescues. Let's watch some racing, folks.